You were put on this planet for a specific purpose to be specifically, uniquely you.
Right.
Don't hide that. That's what the
And
world needs.
and
Go be you.
welcome to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential, the podcast where your transformation begins. I'm Sean Michael, and each day I'll bring you quick, impactful insights and action steps to fuel your personal and professional growth. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone ready to break limits and ignite greatness, this is your daily power boost to crush obstacles, stay focused, and awaken the extraordinary potential within you. Because remember, greatness begins within. Let's go. Hey boosters, welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Today on Beyond the Boost, I'd like to introduce you to Regina Andler, a business strategist and author of The Unicorn Factor. I will pass the mic to her now so she can introduce herself.
Hey, thanks so much for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity here. And yes, I'm Regina Andler. I'm a business strategist. And what I do is I help coaches and consultants effectively utilize AI technology in their businesses to build and scale using a proprietary methodology I have called the Unicorn Factor, AKA the Unicorn Factor book.
Very nice. And I love the title because one of my things I've read is unicorns aren't real, but 12-foot long neck moose camel is real.
True, right? I mean, think about all of the things that are out there. And I don't know. I believe in unicorns. I think they're real,
Yeah, my son loves
personally.
them. But it's a great way to use it because it is really in this crowded marketplace that just gets more crowded every day to be the unicorn, to stand out and be noticed.
Right. And that is what the unicorn factor methodology is actually all about. It's creating a business, not just how you market your business, but your entire business so that it stands out. Because when you think about it, doesn't matter what industry you're in with your business. I think pretty much every industry is saturated at this point. And most of them are oversaturated, especially in the coaching and consulting field. And when you think about that, it's how do you stand out in a field that is so saturated and get people to hear you and see you, especially if you're new. If you're new and not an influencer yet and not out there really in front of everybody, you're like the newcomer coming in and trying to get set up. How do you get people to actually see you?
So
That's what
true.
it's all about.
Because we have these massive influencers with multi, followers in the hundreds of thousands and millions. They've got probably a very large team handling all the social media for them. And when you've got like you said, a startup entrepreneur, a solopreneur trying to be seen and heard, it's very difficult. But I'm wondering, is the unicorn factor just about standing out? Or is it, does it connect to, because when we spoke before, you asked me a question. I can't remember exactly how the wording was, but it was about like what makes you different.
So when you think about the unicorn factor, that's what it is. It's about standing out and it's about identifying those unique pieces that really set you apart from everybody else. Most people, especially when they go into business, you're maybe a little bit nervous. Maybe your confidence isn't quite there yet. You're not quite ready to like jump in and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go do this. I'm not sure if they're going to like me. Maybe nobody's going to buy my stuff. What am I going to do? So you have all this head trash going on. And when you think about it, when you go out into the marketplace like that, you automatically hold back. You don't want to show people your vulnerabilities. You don't want to show people, behind the curtain stuff. And that stuff, your story, your journey, your unique skill set, how you became to be who you are today is actually what makes you stand out from everybody else. Because nobody walking the face of this earth has the same
Exactly.
exact combination of training and experiences that you have. And most people don't even tap into those resources.
Right. Because, like you said, a lot of people are hiding behind either conditioned beliefs or fears of bearing ourselves. I myself went through it. 7 years ago, I started on the journey of wanting to become a coach. And there were a lot of factors that were also behind there, besides all the typical junk. There was some other factors, self-induced problems. Um, and I just, in my heart, I wanted to do this. I wanted to speak out, help people unlock their potential, rise to another new level, live the life they want to live, not be stuck in the hamster wheel per se. And I let imposter syndrome put me on pause. I'm thankful that I'm standing here
Mm-hmm.
today saying I can look back and say it was a pause, but at the time I quit. My wife got pregnant, my income went away. I said, oh, bro, I can't do this. Nobody's listening to me anyway, so no big deal. And that's kind of what, like you said, that your own experiences, your own special sauce is what makes you different, because nobody else can do it like me. Nobody else can do it like you. We might have overlaps. And it's why, for example, I've been working on something I call real mastery, which is all about standing confident in who I am, who we are, and not just, it's about doing the internal to frame our identity, rebuild our identity. It's what are your strengths? Like, know your strengths and take advantage of them. And the other one is align with your purpose. What are your values? What are your
Mm-hmm.
purpose? Why are you here on this earth? Where do you see your life going? And the best part, my favorite part, leverage support through community, through mentors,
Absolutely.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Now,
that is so absolutely true. And to your point of, that showing up and having that imposter syndrome, think about a little bit of limiting belief stuff here. Think about when you were a kid, right? So when you're a kid, you just it just comes out. Everything just comes out. You just say it the way it is, and you go and you do your stuff. And repeatedly, we get told, "Don't say this, don't do that. Oh, you're in public, you need to be quiet. So use your inside voice." All of these things we're told, we're conditioned to not be our actual real self.
right,
And it can hold you back in business. So in business, you want to show up authentically as you, because that is what makes you different.
right. Yeah. And not just show up, but like own it, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
quick question. In you kind of covered this, but let's go a little deeper. Why do so many entrepreneurs struggle to own their uniqueness?
A lot of it is that they're scared. So there's a perception that they won't be accepted. So if I take my
Ooh,
mask off and I show up as me, people aren't going to like me. Why? Because I've been told over and over again, don't do this, don't do this, show up like this. If you're going to be out in public, you need to dress like this. You need to do society tells you all of this stuff. And yet, most of us don't follow any of those things in society. Those are actually the mask. That's the mask that we put on, and we don't show up as ourselves. So when we want to go out and show up as ourselves to actually make an impact, now we're scared to, because we've
mm,
been told over and over and over again not to do that. And so as soon as you start thinking about it, you're like, okay, well, what if they don't accept me? What if they don't like me? What if they don't buy my stuff? What if nobody, clicks like on one of my posts, or engages with any of my stuff, my website? They don't go to my website, whatever it is. We create these stories that
right.
are total false stories. They aren't even true, but we make them up based on all of this head trash that we have, because we're told to act and be a certain way for so long, that when we do want to show up as ourselves, we're scared. There's a
Well,
fear of showing up as yourself.
yeah, and as you said, it's all comes down to, an innate human quality. It was a survival instinct, right? We want to be accepted
Mhm.
in our group because if you were
Yeah.
cast out, you died.
I
You're not going
believe
to
that's in the
die,
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
right? You're not going to die today. I mean, to a point, because, you know, I heard something recently. A newborn baby, if it was just ignored and nobody held it, nobody kissed it and loved it, they will literally die.
Mhm.
Which is why babies are so cute, because everybody wants to hold them and kiss them and say, "Oh, baby," and stuff. And like you said, it's acceptance. I gave, one of my speeches is called "Stop Being Nice," because a lot of the conformity is like you said, we've been told you're too loud, you're too bold, you're too whatever. Calm it down. You can't do that out there.
Mhm.
And so we kind of get caught in the trap of people pleasing. We're being nice because that's what we think we're supposed to do. And I
Mhm.
distinguish specifically, there's nice, and that's like, oh, look at me, I'm a good little whatever, and and good. I'm not saying we're going to be jerks and, you know, that other word. I don't know exactly who my audience. I have a global audience, so I don't want to say the wrong word. But it's not about rude and arrogant and I'm better than you. It's stop. How do I put it? It's stop pushing yourself down in who you are so that you
Mhm.
can make other people happy.
Yes. It's really easy to beat up on ourselves and tell ourselves all of these stories because it's that again is another human trait. It's we tend to be our own worst critic, our own worst judge. We're constantly putting ourselves down when, if you just stopped for a second and said, you know what? I haven't tried this. Am I scared? Yeah, I'm scared. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to send this post out. I'm going to send this email out. I'm going to go up on this stage. What is the worst that can happen? You're not going to die.
Right.
Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Nobody at all likes your post. Nobody smiles or claps while you're on stage. Nobody does anything. All of those scenarios are highly, I would bet 100% unlikely because somebody somewhere is going to resonate with your message. And that's the point of being uniquely yourself, is that you attract those people who are just like you and they resonate perfectly with you. And that's who you're actually trying to bring in for your business, for clients. And even in life, if you're just, attracting friends and you're out, finding a new partner or whatever it is, you're looking for those people that you resonate with.
Right. You want the person who accepts you for all your flaws, all your quirks, your bumps, bruises, and scars. And even when you do something really dumb, they're still there with you.
Yeah, you know what? They do the same thing. So it's the same story on their side too. So be okay with it.
Right. And as you were sharing about, sending that post, worrying about sending that post or getting on stage or whatever it is we're getting ready to do, asking that person out. We talked about life. I heard a statistic that was like 80% of the negative things we worry about never happen.
It might even be more than 80%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was 80%.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the mere act of focusing on it, one, it stresses us out and causes issues for ourselves. And two, it can lead to less than the result you want. I'm not saying, like you said,
Well,
the,
yeah,
the chance of
right,
everybody
because you
booing
hold
you
yourself
off.
back.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're not being your true self.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you hold back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Social media, AI, as we were saying at the beginning, it's crazier and more competitive than it's ever been. And it's only going to get more competitive. So, what do you say to someone who feels like everybody's already doing what I'm doing?
No, they aren't. No, they aren't. They aren't doing it the way you're doing it because you have your own unique style, your own unique way of doing things. And when it comes to AI, just as a little side note for this conversation that we were just talking about, AI is another place for people to hide. They're creating content with AI that doesn't sound a thing like them, and they're using that. And that is not good. So even when you're using AI, there's a way to use AI to still show up uniquely and authentically you so that you don't sound like you came from a machine and it does sound like you. Right now, I see so many people, they create blogs, they create posts, they create articles, they create courses. And if you actually took them outside of their computer or, even one-to-one like this and said, all of a sudden started asking questions. I tell people when I go on to podcasts and stuff like that, I said, just fire away. I'll just answer. And if I don't know an answer, I'm going to say, I don't know the answer. And there'll be people who create all of this stuff with AI. And if you took them away from the element and they didn't have the cheat sheet in front of them, they have no clue about whatever it is.
Right.
And so they're creating these fake personas. So using AI, my first advice to people when they're using AI is to make sure you are showing up authentically and uniquely you when you use it.
Right. Well, and the way I've heard it is, are you using the tool, the AI, to outsource your thinking, your creativity, or are you using it to boost your thinking and your creativity and what it's meant for and to increase efficiency? When I wrote my book, I did it old school, page
Mhm.
by page with a pen and paper, and then I typed it all in a document. And then this is where I used AI. I took the AI and said, okay, review this. If there's improvements, mistakes, I said, I don't want you to rewrite it. I said, tell me where they are, make some
Mhm.
suggestions of how I could do it. And still, I maintained control. I still decided, yeah, no, that's not what I wanted to say. Yeah, because for years, Word, when I was writing business email or business letters and things, and it would say, you use the passive voice, you use the passive voice, and I'm like, what's it even talking about? Like, I don't even know what it's talking about because the English class was decades ago.
And it's true. So AI works really well if you prompt it right. And prompting is just the instructions that you're giving it. So a lot of people say, write me a post on with 3 tips on how to live a more health conscious life. They might be a health coach, and that's what they put into the prompt. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? You're going to get a bunch of a generic junk out of AI. Will it
Right.
have some great information? Yeah, it probably has some really good pointers and stuff like that. Does it sound like you? Absolutely not. Does it make sense? Maybe. Does it really resonate with the message you're trying to send? Possibly. So it's a tool. It's really supposed to be used as that tool. However, there's a caveat. So yes, in the past, the age was you're using AI as a tool. In 2025 and beyond, we're calling 2025 the year of the AI agent. So an AI agent actually is taking over for you. It is thinking for you. It is doing all that creative stuff. In order to create an effective agent, though, it needs to be trained very specifically on you and who you are. Otherwise, it won't work. It'll just spit out junk that doesn't make sense, and you'll be spending more time trying to figure out what it said and where it said it, and it won't sound anything like you.
Right. And that brings up a good point. So how can an entrepreneur or business owner identify what their special sauce is? What makes them different? What would you tell a
So
client
what
that like, I don't know what makes me different?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'd like to do with people nowadays, and I just started doing this fairly recently because I did it for myself and it worked brilliantly, is I had this list and I got this list from another group and then I added my own stuff to it. And it's basically a list of questions. And what we have people do is we have them record themselves answering the questions. When you type something into your computer, you're not typing the same words as if
you're
you would
stripping
speak
away a
it.
layer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So you create an audio file. You can do it on Zoom. You can just bring up the microphone on your, open up a document and put your microphone on your computer and just speak into it that way. But it's an audio recording of you answering the questions. That does a couple things because AI can catch inflections in your voice. AI can catch those words that you repeat over and over again. So if you're one of those people who says, or like a lot, that will actually show up. And out of this recording, that then we put back into AI and we say, analyze this voice recording and give me Regina's unique voice. Give me the voice of whoever it is that you're working with. And what that does is it starts training AI in your specific voice. So, if I say, I want to write a blog in Sean's voice. So if I have your voice style guide that was created from your recording, I could actually take that. So say you have a VA or something, and a VA is creating documents for you or creating content for you. You can give your style guide to them. So when they're creating it, they're saying, create this in the voice of Sean. So that when it comes out, you're like, wow, it actually sounds like I just wrote that when you read it. And you're like, wow, that sounds great because it's pulling it from your unique, authentic voice style.
Yeah. And as you were sharing that, I'm thinking, now if AI gets to the point where we could give it a video,
Mhm.
then I could see that just opening up a whole nother level because, I've taken some classes on body language. And one of my favorite TV shows that used to be on air was Lie to Me, about, micro expressions and things that we're saying one thing, and you can look at expressions
Mhm.
and see how authentic it is.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And there are actually AI tools out there. So here's we'll call it the fun, scary part because it is kind of fun, but it's also kind of scary. And the fun, scary part is there's actually AI apps out there, and I've watched them in action, and they totally blow my mind. That you can put a little bit, you give it a recording
Mm-hmm.
of you and teaching something. So maybe you have a video of something you did a live on Facebook or did a webinar or something, and you basically feed it into this AI app. And then you can tell it, create a 5-minute training on something. And what it will come out with is you on the screen speaking whatever it is, and the entire thing is AI, and you would never, ever, ever know that it wasn't the real person.
Right. Well, and I don't doubt that because I've seen the deep fakes of like Obama, and they're purposely published. It's basically saying like, don't believe everything you hear. I'm not Obama.
Right.
But and I did an experiment on a free app where I gave it a 30-second clip from a podcast episode and said Chinese, Arabic, Turkish, Spanish, and Japanese.
Mhm.
And in a matter of minutes, I had videos that not only, and I've run these by native speakers of all these languages. They're like, wow, that's accurate. That's not a bad translation. And the AI did something with my mouth to synchronize
Mhm.
it. Unlike,
I'm
you
guessing.
know,
I'm guessing that was Hey Jen.
it was actually the Core 11
Okay.
Labs, which
Yeah, because
I
Hey
know
Hey Jen is
HeyGen
a pro.
is
Yeah.
a customer facing interface onto 11. I went directly to the
Yep.
source as an experiment. I'm like, because as I said, I have a global audience. I think it was like 20% of the audience is in the US. The rest is everywhere. They're in Norway and Netherlands and Turkey and Pakistan, everywhere. So
Yeah.
I was like,
And
what?
the cool thing about that is if you find something, maybe you find a webinar, maybe you're in Germany and you only speak German, but you find this webinar, somebody referred this webinar to you, and it is by somebody who's speaking English, and you're like, okay, well, I really want to learn this information, but I don't speak English. They can take that program, put it through something like HeyGen or whatever. They can go in and translate it into German so that now they get the information. You could translate just about anything into, well, not just about anything into anything anymore.
Anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, in the book you talk about the power of authenticity, and this
Mhm.
just means like as more and more people can create and not even they can just pull it straight out of AI, generate something AI. It looks like them, sounds like them, it's not them. So, would you say that being truly and actually knowing your stuff and being authentic is going to become even more of an advantage in this era?
I personally have this feeling, this idea, and I could be completely wrong. But think about the bell curve, typical marketing bell curve, right? So it's like AI is on the swing, it's coming up, and we're just scratching the surface right now with what
Mm-hmm.
AI can do. And all of a sudden, everything is going to be AI generated. And it's going to sound exactly like you. It's going to be in your authentic voice because it's going to be trained so well, it sounds exactly like you. However, it's 100% AI generated. Now, personally, anytime I create anything with AI, right now, I've come close. I've come to maybe 95% where I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, you're almost spot on with exactly the wording and the style I would use. But I go in and make changes. There's still changes to be made.
Right.
There's some people that I know that have it trained so well that 100% of the time it's using what came out from AI. And now they're reading it through to make sure. So you always want to check the stuff. But I have this feeling that at some point, we're going to get to a point where people go, oh, I want that retro stuff. You know, when you used to do that yourself and you didn't use I want that
When people
can
just
you give me some of
talked,
that retro stuff?
when people just had a
Retro content.
conversation.
Look, I just coined a new term. We're going to call it retro content.
Retro content, yes.
Back to when you actually used to write it and all came out of your head.
Yes. It's, we've seen all these other processes, traditions kind of fade away. And, like you said, this retro content where someone actually took the time to write it down, record it with no AI tools. Yeah, there's going to come a point where they're like, yeah, there was this thing back then, they called it a book. And people used to like read letters on a page, like, and learn things and then add their own unicorn factor and make it their own. What happened to that?
And I mean, that's 100% true. Think about marketing over the ages. I mean, way back when, it used to be the newspaper. There'd be papers that went out, and that was how people got all their information. Then the TV came, and then people started getting stuff through the TV. And then all of this direct mail stuff started coming, right? So you started getting all this direct mail stuff, and I'm sure I'm skipping a bunch of stuff as in the interim of the century, so of the decades here. But but you get the picture. And then then the internet happened. I'm old enough to remember before the internet. So I was around before the internet. We didn't have social media to go to. We didn't have online books. We didn't have online news. We didn't have any of that stuff. If you wanted news, you picked up the newspaper. That was where you
Right.
got it, or you turned on the radio or the TV and
Right.
listened to the
The
broadcast.
joke I remember, we had three channels, and if the president was on that night, it was toast. Like whatever you wanted to watch wasn't
Exactly.
happening.
That is so true. And at a certain time of night, it ended up they played the national anthem, and then it all went to the fuzzy screen, and that was it.
Right. And that old
At least here in the
it's
U.S.
12 midnight. Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah, I mean, but you think about where it's gone, and so AI is just the next evolution. So it's
Yeah.
not going away.
No.
But at the same time, you'll see people who are all of a sudden going, oh, but I want the physical book. I want to pick up a book and actually read the book. I don't want it on my Kindle or on my computer. I want to physically touch and feel it. And, people are going to say, well, I actually want that piece of mail. I want that card that I got because it was kind of nice receiving something in the mail that had my name on it that I was actually interested in.
Right.
So things still come around. And so I think AI as it comes in, it's going to hit that crest where it's like, okay, it's just the norm. And then people are going to go, oh yeah, what about that retro content?
Yeah, for sure. And all right, so now that somebody has identified what makes them special, what is their unicorn factor, how do
Mhm.
we use it?
Yeah. So once you identify what are your unique skills, what are your unique experiences, you put all that together. What is your unique story, your journey? So when people say that all the time, they're like, well, they keep telling me to write my story. And it's like, yeah, it's your journey. You were here and now you're here. What happened in between? That's all we're talking about. There for everybody there was highs and lows. You did some really cool stuff. You learned a bunch of things. You maybe did some bad stuff. You maybe
Learned
lost
a
some
bunch of
stuff.
things.
Yeah, right, right. Learned a bunch of things. Yeah, there's ups and downs, and that whole story is what makes you unique. So all of those unique skills, and then that story is what actually makes you unique. Now, once you have that, it's the world is your oyster as far as being unique. Now it's just getting it out there. The book that I have, the Unicorn Factor book. So the Unicorn Factor is a methodology which spans everything that I do, from business all the way through creating content. The book is specifically about content. The subtitle is Demystifying Marketing Content to Set You Apart from the Crowd. And it's all about finding that information. The first three chapters are literally all about the finding your core genius, your story, your ideal client avatar, your unique client avatar, not just everyone that you want to sell stuff to. And then it goes into, then the meat of the book is all about the content. And if you if you knew or remember anything about old school marketing, there was a phrase called AIDA, AIDA. It's attention, interest, desire, action. It's basically the four key components
Mm-hmm.
of marketing. And everybody, like me, has made their own version of that. So in the book, it talks about, the first one is grab their attention. So whatever you're putting out there, you want to grab people's attention, and you do that with your headline, the first line of whatever it is that you write. That's how you grab people's attention. In the world of social media, you have 3 seconds or less
To
to
stop
get
the
people to
scroll.
stop
Yep.
and stop the scroll. Exactly. So, the joke is, apparently somebody at some point did a study on goldfish and found that a goldfish has an 8-second attention span, which I don't know if it's true or not. That's what the study said. And, the big joke is that we have less of an attention span than a goldfish.
Yeah. Well, a
So
statistic that I heard recently, 12,000 messages every day. Marketing
for the
messages.
individual, I would say that sounds about right.
12,000 marketing messages a day
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
various sources, whether it's our social media or wherever. It's everywhere. It's inescapable. And because it's so, as we said before, saturated, getting people's attention. So you've got this busy, saturated market with all the noise, and then you've got that reduced attention span. So that, having this unique, I'm like you said, I'm old school. I call it special sauce. Special sauce,
Yeah.
unicorn factor. To you, the fancy marketing team, your USP.
Right. Yeah. So when you think about all that stuff and you've got such a short time, that first line, if that doesn't capture people's attention, they're gone. So whatever you're out there, so you've got all that unique stuff, and now you want to start writing content. There's the four key components. So it's that AIDA, or my version, which is grab their attention. Then you need to spark their interest. So it's basically, you need to keep my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then you provide value. So then the meat of whatever you're doing is providing value. And then there's some kind of a call to action. I call it an action invitation. Call to action to me sounds a little harsh. I don't know why. Call to action means you have to go do this. Action invitation says, hey, you might want to do this or you might not want to. It's okay either way. That's why I call it an action invitation.
I like it, because as the marketplace gets more saturated, it's more about connection, it's more about relationship, and
Mhm.
like those principles you shared, grabbing attention, holding attention,
Right,
giving value, are still very critical. That's not going away, in my opinion.
right.
So, fun time. Can you share like a Mike's drop story of someone who embraced, like they figured out their unicorn factor, embraced it, learned to embrace it, and how it transformed their business or their life?
Oh, I have multiple clients who I just recently finished. Well, last year I finished a lead magnet, an AI empowered lead magnet training. Right before that, I had done a social media marketing one that basically taught you how to create this. And it was going through those four key elements and how to pull out your story. And there's five, I call it five key different types of content that you
Mm-hmm.
put. So say it's Facebook, wherever it is, that's personality posts, credibility posts, contribution posts, value posts, and vulnerability posts. And you mix them up. So you won't have all the same content out there. And so I taught this method about creating the different types of posts, wrapping in the story, putting in those four key components. And I had multiple clients come back to me going, you know what? I had crickets on all of my messaging before. And now I'm getting likes, I'm getting comments, I'm getting shares, I'm getting way more people engaged and coming into my community. And because now they're coming into my community, of course, some of those people are translating into clients. So the methodology works. One of the things, especially with social media, is that, crazy algorithm that everybody talks about. The algorithm, all it's there for is Facebook is social media, LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, social media, Threads, social media. If you're posting something and people aren't liking, commenting, sharing, saving, whatever, the algorithm says, well, nobody wants you, so you're going way down in the list, and nobody wants to see your stuff anyway, so we're just not going to show it anymore. And you don't even know it's not being shown to anybody. You just
Right.
wonder why nobody's commenting on anything.
Well, and it's
When you start putting the stuff out there and you start getting those likes and comments, all of a sudden the algorithm goes, oh, Sean's like really an interesting guy. People like his stuff. We're going to show it to more people. That's all it's about.
right, because well, that's what those networks are built for, is
Mhm.
and it's, you talked about living before the internet. you know we were also old enough to be cognizant of the evolution of the internet once it did come. And I remember early on, online marketers found a hack where instead of actually publishing good content, they hacked the algorithm to get their result pushed up. And
Mhm.
then they cried when Google changed the algorithm, and suddenly all their traffic just went because it's like you said, it's like people who are 100% relying on AI and not outside of their computer, their AI, they've got nothing.
Right. You need to show up as authentically as you. You need to check your stuff. And the thing is that that algorithm does, it changes on a regular basis. So something that's working today might not work tomorrow. And that's okay. You just need to stay on top of it. You actually, you know, some people are like, well, I got all this AI stuff. I don't have to work anymore. I'm just going to have AI do it all. You know what? You still have to do something. It doesn't mean you have to, work 70 hours a week. One of the great things about AI is it saves a lot of time. So instead of you sitting there going, I'm trying to come up with some ideas for posts this week, I'm trying to plan my content out for the week.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I'm sitting here, I'm coming up with a blank. What am I going to write about this week? You can go into AI and say, here's what I do. Here's the information. Here's what my clients have been asking for. Give me some ideas. And it will pop up some ideas. So all of a sudden, instead of spending 3 hours trying to think about it, in 5 minutes, you've got 10 great ideas. And
Or
you're like, oh,
three
okay, I'm going to run with this one.
or 3 hours banging your
Uh,
head against the wall like, I got no ideas, I got no ideas.
exactly. Exactly.
The,
So that's where it saves you a ton of time. Just to go back to that algorithm thing for a minute, I have actually seen a lot of people creating what I guess in the grand scheme of the term clickbait, it's
mhm.
not clickbait. I call it clickbait. They're posting a post and then they're putting a video that
Oh, I
it,
hate.
it doesn't really have anything to do with the post. So like I've seen posts where somebody was like, you know, just walking down the street. The video is just them walking down the street. There's no voice, there's no talking or anything else. And it's because people will watch videos because people like to watch videos. So
Mhm.
they suck you in because they get you to click on the video. And then, of
Right,
course,
they
you'll
stop
click
the
on the
scroll
video.
with
So
it.
now you go read what was in the post.
Right. Or the other
I call
one
that
I've
clickbait.
seen
Yeah, don't do that.
I've seen the ones where there's something in the post and a picture, and like, oh, that looks interesting, let me look at the post. Well, there's nothing in the post. You got to go to the comments, and then there's a link to go somewhere else. I'm like, okay, bye. And like you said, the
That's true
algorithm's
clickbait.
changing. A-
Yeah.
the algorithm changing because, well, the not just the algorithms but the structure. Like, I remember 7 to 10 years ago, the early days of Facebook, when it was like, hey, social media is great because if you're going to, you can do ads, you can be more precise. Instead of
Mhm.
spreading it so wide, you can hone it down to a location, a type of person, etc. And I also remember my feed as a viewer was the things I wanted to see, the things I clicked like on,
Mhm.
or the people. Now there's random stuff that just, like, I'm like, I've never been to this page. I know nothing about it, but it's in my feed. I'm like, what's going on, Facebook? Like, so they're
Yep.
changing because they're doing their thing. That's what they're doing to grow their business.
Exactly. And that's the whole deal. I mean, Facebook is just another business. And as users, people are always complaining, going, "Oh, Facebook says it's going to start charging to do stuff," which it's never going to do. But that comes around every few years. People start saying, "Oh, yeah, tell Facebook they can't charge us or we're gone." And it's like they're
Uh
never going to
huh.
charge you. They make their money on ads. They make their money by
They make
ads.
good
That
money on
that's
it.
Right. They make really good money on ads. And so if they are not getting the ads in front of people, it's just like TV, right? So if you watch regular TV, so many people watch streaming TV so they don't have commercials now. And even a bunch of the streaming sources have commercials now because
Mm-hmm.
they have to get paid somehow. They charge you really little for the streaming service. And then you're like, well, why do I have ads? And it's like, well, they have bills to pay too. So yeah, it is a business.
Right.
So as
It's
a
a
business owner, I
cycle. Like,
totally
yeah.
get yeah, as I totally get it. And what they're doing with those other ads is they're picking ads that are popular and basically throwing them in your feed to see if you like them. If you like them, you're going to start seeing a whole bunch more of that stuff. If you don't like them and you ignore them or you hide them, chances are pretty good they're going to disappear from your feed because Facebook goes, oh, Sean's not interested in this stuff, so we're not going to show it to him anymore. However, something new will show up probably
Right.
to replace it because that's how it works.
Right. But that just highlights the power of embracing your authenticity, your experience, your unicorn factor, putting it out there in everything you do, right? Whether it's business
Mhm.
online, or your conversations at the mall, or your dating life, or whatever. You know, it reminds me of, and I want to add another level. In psychology class, there was something called the Johari window.
Mhm.
And the idea is, it's like your house window. You think the curtains are closed and nobody sees anything, or you have your vision of what people can see,
Mhm.
but then there's what they really see. And like we talked about masks, a lot of times people, they're not wearing a full mask, but they're covering up. They think they're showing this, but they're really showing this.
Mhm. Yeah, and again, life or business, it doesn't matter. I just have a rule in my life now.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that I pointedly said that because there was a time in my life. I this wasn't something I haven't been like this all my life. I am 100% authentically me. I show up as me. People tell me it's funny if I wear my hair down. They're like, "Who are you?" It was like because everybody sees me in my ponytail all the time. I always have my glasses on. It's like my bangs are always here. Is this is me. I show up authentically as me wherever it is that I'm showing up, and you always get the real me. There was a time in my life where when I was younger, and I think it went through my 20s, maybe into my 30s, where I purposefully tried to look different because I thought I was supposed to in order to fit in. And looking back now, that didn't serve me at all. It didn't win friends, influence people, it's usually Dale
Got you a
Carnegie
bunch
what
of
was it,
got those
yeah,
fake friends, right? Or
exactly.
the fair weather friends.
Exactly. So, you have to show up authentically as you, and the real people who resonate with you, who you are, those are the people that you want in your life, in your circle as clients. Because if you have clients, if you're a business owner and you start attracting in people that they don't have to be exactly like you, but if they aren't, at least in your world, and if they resonate with you. So maybe some people like, Tony Robbins has a very loud, boisterous
In your
personality, right?
face.
He's a big guy. Yeah, yeah, he's in your face. He's a big guy. There are some people, there's a lot of people who resonate with that. I'm actually a Jack Canfield certified success principles trainer on top of other things that I do. And I love Jack Canfield. He's the
He's
polar opposite
yeah,
of Tony.
exactly. I was thinking the same
They
thing. He's like
teach they teach
180,
kind of yeah.
but their
Yeah, they teach kind of the same
personality, yeah.
style.
Jack is, I mean,
Different.
he's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, which is an amazing
Right.
book, and his story is amazing. But yeah, you know, we could say it this way, you know, find your vibe, embrace your vibe, because your vibe attracts
Hmm.
your tribe. The
Yes,
people
absolutely.
that will love you exactly how you are, pony, hair up, hair down, glasses, no glasses, whatever. No need for perfection. Just be real, right?
Be authentically you.
Rock your unicorn.
I had t-shirts made up, and every time I wear them often. I don't have one on today, otherwise I'd show you. Um, but I wear them often, especially when I go out. And I made this uh, a very unique way of putting it. And it just says B dash unique with U spelt as YOUNIQUE. So B dash that. But on the B, there's a little unicorn horn and a little tail on the bottom of it. And so I had shirts made up. And every time I wear these shirts out, everybody's like, I want one of those shirts. Can you get me one of those shirts? They're like, where did you get that? I was like, I had it made. I said, I designed it and I had it made. And I said, it's that's what it's for. It's about being unique. I'm actually going to an expo in about another month or so, and I was looking for some promotional items. And so I said, okay, I'm going to have something that has "Be Unique" on it. And then I had pens made up. I actually have them here. And this little pen here, you probably can't see it, but it says "Unleash Your Inner Unicorn."
Love it.
And that's what it's all about. It's about being authentic, whether it's business, whether it's life, it doesn't matter. Wherever you show up, always be you, because that's what the world needs. You were put on this planet for a specific purpose, to be specifically, uniquely you.
Right.
Don't hide that. That's what the
And
world needs.
and
Go be you.
as we said, there are the right people are looking for you. They're waiting for you to drop the mask. Like you
Mhm.
said, I been there too. You've got work version, home version. You've got these multiple versions of yourself, and it's tiring, right?
Yeah,
Because you have to remember, like, is hair up, hair down? Is it glasses on, glasses off? Watch it's like when you let go of all that and just like, this is who I
yeah,
am, it's so freeing. It's so much simpler because you just show up and be you.
yeah. One of the first times, little side story, one of the first times that I really resonated with this for myself was back in corporate world with many years ago. And it was the first business trip. I was in management, and we had an East Coast data center that I managed, and then we had a West Coast data center, and we'd go out and visit each other every 6 months or so. So my very first business trip, I went out, and of course you're staying there. So you're staying overnight, and so you're going out to eat and doing stuff with the folks that are out there. Now I show up at work, and I'm all business. It's all, here's what we're doing, here's the business, da 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 da. So it's the business view. And then afterwards, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go hotel, get changed, and then we'll meet up for supper and stuff like that. I literally had the guy from the West Coast that I was out visiting that I had talked to all the time on the phone. I literally, when we showed up and we started talking, we started having a good time. And, we had a couple drinks, we were having some fun, we were having laughs, we were laughing and having fun with a whole bunch of people. He literally turned around, looked at me, he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm me." He goes, "No, that wasn't the person that was in the office today." And that was actually my first wake up call of, wow, I really do have these different personas depending on where I am. And I started making it an effort to say, no, 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 I just need to be me. So yeah, show up as you.
Yeah. So to go ahead and wrap this up, is there an easy way for people to find you?
Sure. Well, they can always go to my website. My website is www.autumnascent.com. And I'm out on Facebook. They can find me under my name. And I have a very unique name on Facebook. I tell people, go to my personal profile. It's Regina Patty Hayes Andler. I put my middle name and my maiden name because when I was younger, people knew me by Patty. My maiden name is Hayes. So Regina Patty Hayes Andler, there's not another one out on Facebook. So I am completely unique out there. And I said, just come find me. And I'm more than happy to have a conversation, have a cup of coffee and help set people on the right path if they're trying to figure out where to go next.
And I will definitely include those links in the show notes. And when we set this up, you said you've got something, but things are in the works.
Well, I have a new thing that I'm working on, which isn't out yet. Right now on my website, there is a free 5-day email course, meaning that it's delivered via email over 5 days. It's called the Facebook Content Blueprint. Say that 10 times fast. The Facebook Content Blueprint. And it basically, those things that I was talking about the 4 key elements and the 5 different types of posts, all of that stuff is in the 5-day email course. All of it's in there. So, and it's completely free. All you need to do is go out and, just like everything else, you put your name, your email in, and you're off and running.
And I would guess the book, The Unicorn Factor, can be found on all
the
major
the Unicorn
resellers,
Factor
right?
book on
Amazon,
yep,
etc.
This is right out on Amazon. The Unicorn Factor, just put my name in, Regina Andler, The Unicorn Factor. There's a lot of unicorn books out there. Trust me, I looked. But if you put The Unicorn Factor and Regina Andler, it absolutely shows up first.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you, Regina. It's been lovely. In closing,
thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Blending is boring. The future belongs to those who dare to stand out.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.